Imagine a world before the relentless chirping of alarm clocks. A world where the pre-dawn darkness held entire cities in its silent grip, and the intricate gears of industry demanded a precise awakening. How did millions rise from their slumber, ready to fuel the greatest revolution humanity had ever known? Who were the silent orchestrators of this daily miracle? The unseen hands that gently nudged an entire populace into motion. This is the story of the knocker-uppers, the forgotten figures who, armed with little more than a long stick and an unwavering commitment, literally knocked a sleeping world awake. For millennia, humanity lived by the rhythms of the sun or the crow of a rooster. Punctuality, as we understand it today, was largely a foreign concept. Yet, as the 18th century gave way to the 19th, a new force began to reshape society: the Industrial Revolution. Its relentless machinery, its sprawling factories, and its burgeoning urban centers demanded an unprecedented level of synchronized effort. Every cog in the industrial machine had to start precisely on time. But how do you ensure an entire workforce rises before dawn, in an era devoid of personal alarm clocks? The answer was both ingenious and deeply human. The sprawling textile mills of Lancashire, the smoky foundries of Birmingham, the bustling docks of London. These were the arteries of a new world, beating with the pulse of steam and steel. But these behemoths demanded an early start. Shifts began at 5 a.m., sometimes even 4 a.m., long before the sun's natural alarm. Missing a shift meant lost wages, and for the factory owners, lost production. The stakes were high, and the need for a reliable wake-up call became paramount. It was a problem that necessitated a unique, often overlooked solution. From the shadowy corners of these burgeoning industrial cities emerged an unlikely hero, the knocker-upper. Not a figure of legend or heroic tales, but an everyday individual, yet one who held a vital, almost sacred, role in the daily rhythm of millions. For a small fee, typically a few pennies a week, they would undertake the monumental task of rousing an entire street, or even a whole district from its slumber. They were the human alarm clocks, the silent sentinels of punctuality, ensuring that the wheels of progress never stopped turning. Their primary instrument was deceptively simple: a long, lightweight bamboo cane or a sturdy wooden pole, often extending up to 20 feet. The pole wasn't just for tapping. It was designed for precision. Some had a wire or a weighted knob at the end, allowing for a distinct, resonant tap on the upper windows of terraced houses where factory workers slept. For ground-floor dwellers, a sharp rap on the door or a small hand rattle would suffice. Others even used pea shooters, firing dried peas at bedroom windows, an early, organic form of persistent notification. This wasn't an anonymous service. Knocker-uppers knew their routes intimately, often memorizing the specific windows of their clients. They knew who worked at the mill, who at the docks, and what time each needed to be roused. Some even knew the habits of their sleepers, who needed a gentle tap, and who required a more persistent rattle. It was a testament to personal dedication in an increasingly impersonal industrial world, a small human connection amidst the grinding gears of progress. Their success depended on their reliability, their memory, and their empathy. The profession of knocker-upper attracted a diverse array of individuals. It was often taken up by the elderly who needed supplemental income but perhaps lacked the physical stamina for factory work. Women, too, found a place in this vital, if humble, occupation, navigating the dark streets with quiet determination. Children were sometimes employed to assist, learning the routes and the faces, continuing a tradition. Their motivations varied, but their mission was singular: to wake the city. They were the unsung heroes of their communities, often overlooked in the grand narratives of history. Their workday began long before anyone else's, often around 3 a.m. They navigated treacherous, poorly lit streets, battling the cold, the rain, and the persistent fog that often blanketed industrial towns. Each client had to be roused, and the knocker-upper would only move on once they were certain the person was awake, sometimes waiting for a signal like a window opening or a light appearing. This wasn't a quick tap and go. It was a commitment to ensure the worker made it to their shift. It was a relentless, solitary journey through the sleeping city. The life of a knocker-upper was not without its perils. Dark alleys harbored dangers, both human and environmental. The notorious London fog could reduce visibility to mere feet, making navigation a terrifying ordeal. Drunken revelers, stray dogs, and the ever-present threat of crime were constant companions. And then there were the uncooperative clients, the heavy sleepers who required endless tapping, or those who simply resented being woken, sometimes even retaliating with a bucket of water from an upstairs window. It was a profession that demanded resilience, patience, and a thick skin. In an era before mass communication and standardized timekeeping, the knocker-uppers were the vital link between individual slumber and industrial demand. They were the invisible hand that kept the machinery of progress ticking. Without them, countless factory gates would have remained locked, shifts would have been missed, and the delicate balance of the industrial ecosystem would have faltered. Their work, though humble, underpinned the very fabric of daily life in these rapidly expanding urban centers, making them unsung architects of societal punctuality. For their tireless efforts, knocker-uppers earned a modest wage, often just a few pence per week per client. It wasn't a fortune, but in an age of widespread poverty and limited social safety nets, it was often enough to put food on the table or supplement a meager pension. Their service was affordable, democratic, and essential. While their names are largely forgotten, their collective effort created an enduring legacy. They instilled a new discipline of time, shaping the very concept of punctuality that defines our modern world. They laid the groundwork for the relentless march of scheduled living. The knocker-uppers' reign, however, was destined to be temporary. The very industrial progress they helped facilitate would eventually lead to their obsolescence. As the 19th century drew to a close and the 20th dawned, mechanical alarm clocks became increasingly affordable and widespread. No longer a luxury, these self-winding marvels offered a personal, private wake-up call, independent of human intervention. The convenience of a clock on every bedside table began to chip away at the necessity of a human tapping at the window. By the mid-20th century, the profession of knocker-upper had all but vanished. The last known professional knocker-upper retired in the 1970s in England, a final echo of a bygone era. Today, the very idea seems quaint, almost unbelievable, a human waking an entire city with a stick. Yet, their story serves as a poignant reminder of human ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability in the face of monumental societal shifts. They were the living pulse of the Industrial Revolution's dawn, a testament to the essential role of humble, persistent labor. The knocker-uppers, figures born from necessity, sustained by dedication, and eventually rendered obsolete by progress. Their story is more than a historical footnote. It's a window into a world utterly transformed by the demands of industry and the ingenuity of ordinary people who rose to meet them. They taught an entire generation to live by the clock, shaping our modern relationship with time itself. Though their taps on the windows have long since faded, their quiet impact resonates still, a hidden echo in the relentless march of every morning, reminding us of the forgotten guardians who once woke a sleeping world.